So yeah, I got a selection of photos, pictures, and whatnot. Just kind of wanted to cover Tartaria in a nutshell, kind of general breakdown of it for you. Some of the things that you mentioned, like radium.
Yeah, there's so much to talk about, and let's just start the show, and we'll talk about it. And I wanna point out like the naysayers, like there was no Tartaria. It's
Yes, yeah,
laughable.
that's
It's laughable.
yeah,
It's laughable. It's so
indeed,
stupid. Do you
indeed.
watch my lunch break?
I have not. No, is that one of your programs or?
No, 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 no. He's on the app. I just got my lunch break on YouTube. He does what you
Okay.
do, just a different style, and he
Okay.
he basically finds old buildings and looks up the narrative on the old building, and these are written by AI. He's like showing you how it just makes no sense, and there's lots of good stuff. And he found some stuff in Wisconsin. Holy crap!
Really? That's kind of
Holy
interesting.
crap!
That's where I reside. Where at in Wisconsin?
So go back. If you go right to them, my lunch break,
Yep.
and
Got that written
the,
down here.
just go to his last video.
Okay. All
And then
right.
it'll tell you a couple before. But he's a good guy. I can connect you to if you guys want to collaborate. Um,
Yeah.
and
Definitely.
he is mind blowing stuff.
Awesome.
Right up there with you.
Awesome. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Especially Wisconsin videos definitely got me interested.
He found
Like I said, I'm
he
up in
found a
the
building that had griffins all the way around the top
really.
and yellow and blue. Okay.
That's got to be Milwaukee.
What was it? Maybe it
That's
was Milwaukee.
awesome.
And then he
Yeah.
found some other stuff, and then there's some construction going on there where they found like some old shit below the resurfacing of the road. Just watch his last video. You're gonna it's a
Oh
rabbit
yeah.
hole. You'll fall in it and you'll never get out.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's the standard MO every time they dig up or resurface the roads. You constantly, like, you can type in YouTube, go onto YouTube and find type in like underground found and just insert random city, and good 75% of the time you're going to find a local news video of them, just, oh, local construction crews just uncovered this massive underground brick complex. We think it was used for, the prohibition. All these gangsters were building these intricate red brick tunnels and intricate red brick undergrounds just for prohibition.
It's all about prohibition and slave trading. All these tunnels, all of
Yep.
the underground worlds. I used to think, yeah, you know what? I used to believe that, but now just the evidence is beyond it's beyond any fathom of a doubt. Now, when did the
Exactly.
reset happen? We can talk about that all day long. Who did it?
Yes.
How did it happen? Why did it happen? How many times it happened? We'll talk about that, but it happened.
Exactly.
And my guess is 1843.
1843.
I
That's a
just
good
threw that
guess.
number. I pulled
Yeah.
it in my rear end.
That's my best estimation is between like 1850s, 1900, like early 1900. There's just, regardless of the exact time, because there's tons of evidence that the dates, the years, we have no actual fathomable idea what year it is. So we're just kind of going off of their numbers. But yeah, I'd say between the 1850s and early 1900s, there is just such strangeness about. And that's really the best estimate that I've had, and a lot of others have came up with in regards to the exact time frame of the last reset. We think it happens every couple hundred years, though.
Jake, what did we have as far as power tools and transportation in the 1920s?
1920s. Well, they just invented the first power tool back in like 1890, I believe. So before that, all these intricate structures, all these magnificent buildings that were being built in a year's time was done with horse and buggy,
Yeah.
oxen, and push cart. 1920, we just started rolling out with a gas-powered vehicle. However, before that, we had, over 75% of New York running all electric prior. Electric vehicles were massive.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, just like that, all gone.
I go to my little local diner that I go to. In the bathroom, they have these old pictures of New York of these construction workers working on these beams, 40, 50 stories high. And I started looking at it just the other day at the buildings below them. This is like 1920. There's a massive city of all old world buildings there already. And it would take us 100 years to build that right now.
Oh, easily.
And all the buildings looked hundreds of years old.
Yeah, and that's the thing. When you look back at those older photos, the first ones that we have back in the early 1800s, we're supposed to be seeing new construction. For one, you'll see very, very little, if any, construction photos. And the construction photos you do see look very altered. They look like nothing you would see at a construction site. No clear level grounds, no sectioned off area. They have these big, massive buildings being built right on top of full-size trees, unleveled ground. I mean, if you've ever seen a construction site, that's something you'll never see there. You'll see, the first thing they do when they build something, they level out the surface. They put up those nice little metal fences all around.
They put in the roads first.
Exactly, mostly so you can't see what they're undigging.
Jake, tell me what's up with this picture. Tell me about this picture. Is this the Washington Monument?
That's the Lincoln Memorial.
That's what I meant. Lincoln Memorial.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite pictures in DC.
And when was this taken?
Look at it, it's a swampland. 1900s, early 1900s. I don't have the exact date on that, but
and when was the Lincoln Memorial allegedly built, according to the narrative?
Let's find out here real quick.
I mean, you don't just build this in the middle of a dirt field.
Exactly. It looks like a muddy dirt field.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you'll see with so much of these alleged construction. It looks like it was built in 1922 is when it was dedicated. So, and that's exactly what I said, around mid 1800s, early 1900s, you just see a vast amount of undigging. All of a sudden, whether it's Rome or, things like this, you just see people deciding to go on these digs to undig everything from Egypt, Rome. And then that's exactly what these type of scenes look. You got that whited out sky.
Let me ask you a question. And I want to talk about the whited out sky in a second. So they say that the Lincoln Memorial was built in the 1920s, thereabouts. Is that what the narrative says? And was there anything else there, or did they build it in the middle of a field?
Essentially, that's just the middle of a field. Yeah, I mean, a muddy field in the middle of nowhere, it looks like.
With no roads, yeah.
No roads, no cranes, no construction workers at all. And you see that with so much of DC. I did a video way far back on DC. Let's see what I got saved here. Here's let me share you my screen if I can.
You can.
Okay. So here's another one. This is a Washington Monument being built. And I mean, just let's look at the kooky oddities here. You got this like blast mark almost. Yeah. And when you look at the Washington Monument now, you see that it has two tones in color. It starts off, like this kind of darker marble color. And then they say they supposedly stopped for a while in construction of it. And then when they restarted, that's where the different coloring. But does this look like any construction site? I mean, like these little cranes, you actually see a couple people working, weird barrels, rickety looking shacks, and this old looking base. I mean, look at this base that it's built on top. This looks like hundreds of years old.
What are you suggesting?
I think a lot of these cities, I mean, these brick masons, there's a reason why the word founded. Think of it. Yeah. We have founded cities. Buildings were not built yet founded on a date.
I'm down with that. They're not founded, they're founded.
right around the same time, what do you have happening on? You have the orphan train, you have the orphan asylums. What did they call those kids? They called them foundlings.
Yeah.
These were found lands. These were found cities, cities that were abandoned and emptied for several decades, if not centuries.
If not centuries, right?
And
Good.
here's another like Lincoln Memorial. Like, look at this. This just does not look like a construction site. It's, this is a little bit cleared right up here, but this is just an empty, abandoned field. Of course, you have the blurred out, whited skies. Can't have anyone seeing what's behind there.
So,
another really
wait. You're cranking along too fast.
Sorry, go ahead.
The Washington Monument, where's the rest of it? If it was there before, that's just the bottom part of it, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's the bottom part of it. If you see a lot of pictures of what they call the conception of the Washington Monument, you actually see like this kind of whole section around it, almost kind of looking very similar to Stonehenge, like a little pavilion built around the whole center. Now, they say that was just a conception, but I've came across so many pictures, those like bird's eye views or depictions of cities from the 1800s, 1900s, showing the Washington Monument with that round rotunda down at the bottom.
Yeah.
So again, it seems like, the mud flood happened, wiped out most of these buildings. And what we see here, like these older structures that are buried, like the main streets in any city in America, any city in the world, pretty much, you'll find these very strong mason-built buildings that survive the flood, but they're several meters underground.
Yep.
And same with the city roads. I mean, basically, think of it this way. You have limited manpower, limited tools, limited resources. You're coming into these cities. You're not going to dig out the whole entire buildings. You're just going to, second floor becomes the first floor. You're going to make it all as level as you can, call it a day, build a new door where the windows are. And you see that time and time again in these.
Got some images.
All these constructions, they just look very, yeah, I do here. Let's,
some of the digging out pictures are just absolutely stunning.
Yeah, let me show you some of these
while you're pulling those up, keep looking. The whited skies. Our skies are becoming whited all the time right now. Since there's nothing new under the sun, maybe this whole spraying of the sky thing was happening even more so back then. And when they get the skies to be totally white, maybe that's when the reset happens.
That's a very good point here. I think that in like airships, air travel, celestial events.
Yep.
You look back and like a lot of old newspaper articles, there's actually talks like the Battle of Nuremberg back in the 1600s,
yep,
where they just woke up to these crafts in the sky fighting each other like a whole-on space battle right in the sky. And that was far from the only instance of that. There was instances of flying ships seen in the sky in Germany back in the early 1700s, I believe. And I mean, just when you think of the airships here,
yeah,
I think that is the reason why we have some of these most grand monuments, grand structures from hundreds and thousands of years ago in some of the most remote regions in the world.
Yeah,
places that would be near impossible even today with all of our infrastructure, all of our technology, supposed, to be able to build something like that in such grand style and grand function, middle of an island, middle of a mountainside, middle of, nowhere.
Middle of the Amazon.
Exactly. In the most remote, inhospitable regions.
What are we looking at here? We're looking at the railroad tracks being excavated?
Yes. So this is the supposed construction of the Transcontinental Railway. And as you see, again, very weird construction here. You have the muddy and dug out railroads. You have, groups of controllers, the nice little well-dressed, well-off people here. And that's what you see with the actual pictures of the Transcontinental Railroad being built. Like, look at these. These tracks are still underground, basically.
Yeah.
And you look from where they dug up, it's about a couple meters underground. It's, the same commonality you'll find in these pictures. These are just the railroads. I mean, throughout in the old times, especially, I mean, here's another picture. They're just digging out, and you can see, archways right here.
Can you make that bigger?
Yes, I can.
Yeah, there you go. Oh, beautiful. There you go.
There we go. I mean, you can see just all this stone and brickwork right here, several meters underground. And this is this was a escape hatch built in 1500s for a king. Can't quite remember the name off the top of my head, but this was all made for one person, they say, several meters underground as an escape hatch. If any of that makes sense. I mean, just look at these boys here compared to like the size of the archway.
Yeah.
And again, complete buried and looking almost melted brickwork. This is in Russia.
Did you,
just
speaking
archways.
of melted and petrification, did you see in Acapulco, the crazy freak storm that they had, but they just let people back in the other day, and somebody found a frog in mid-leap that turned to stone.
I have not seen that. That sounds very interesting.
A petrified frog. So whatever happened there happened instantaneously.
Exactly right. And that's what we see with these mud fossils, these, giants that once walked these lands. They were literal mountain sized. And people tell you, oh, that's not how petrification works, yada, yada. But what they tell us about pretty much everything in history, in the sciences, they just put some extreme values to them that we can't verify ourselves. But then when we look at the evidence, they were saying, like, for example, dinosaurs. They were finding soft tissue remains on dinosaur bones, which if they were millions of years old, that should be absolutely impossible. And
was it you that showed was it a dictionary or something that talked about dragons and how it said nearly extinct, very rare? Yeah, very rare. And that was, what year was that? Do you remember?
That was a dictionary from the 1700s. Let me see if I have that in this file.
We're going all over the place here, but that's okay.
It's okay. That's
all right.
That's the problem with this is there's so much to go over.
While you're looking at that, you pointed out in your video that the Chinese zodiac has 13 animals, 12 real animals, and 1 fake one. Does that make any sense?
Not at all. They actually had a dragon handler, an official state dragon handler in China, up until the 1700s. So, I mean, honestly, it goes a lot deeper. I mean, there are far more evidence to suggest dragons are real than dinosaurs. Dinosaurs are just an invention. That's why we can't see the actual bones. Any bones that are displayed in museums are just composites. And they say, well, they have to be because the radiation from the dinosaurs back then.
Yeah. There's a royal guy in the 1800s who theorized about dinosaurs. No one had ever found any evidence of dinosaurs in all of the pre-construction as far as back as our fake history goes. And then a year later, to the day after he published that, he and his team discovered the first dinosaur. I'm sorry. Anybody that believes that is, you are a coincidence theorist, and you have given up your ability to think.
Exactly. I mean, it's the same with Tartaria. So when you type in Tartaria here, what do you get? You get things like this. Let's see if you can pull this up on the camera well. Can you see that definition from Google?
I just see your files. It's very small. You got to bring up images. It's gonna be tough to see anything.
Oh, yeah. Hang on. I'm sorry. I'm not sharing my actual screen. Give me just a second. Let me go back to my camera.
Here, I'll stop sharing you. Now you can.
There we go.
Now you can reshare. Oh, there you go. Okay.
All right. So I got some printouts here. I thought this would make it a little bit easier.
Got it.
So this is some of the information you'll get from the mainstream if you type in Tartaria, saying it's just a placeholder. Blanket cartography. You see that okay?
Yep.
So it's just a blanket term used by European cartographers to explain the vast regions in the east that they had no idea about. Despite that, we had maps from 1500 all the way up until at least the 1860s. And I say at least the 1860s because we have this photo from the Atlas of the World.
I love
at
it.
the time, the flags of all nations. And what do we see here? Tartaria right next to China. And this isn't just some, willy-nilly thing we got here. Mexico, we got Brazil right here. All of these countries. And you look at US right here. I don't know if you can see the stars quite so well. I counted them all out. There are 34 stars on this US flag. Significance of that is when you go into the NPC's tool to Google, when did US have 34 stars? They had them in 1861. So when US was already a country for supposedly almost 100 years at that point, in 1861, Tartaria was still a represented nation of the world.
Yep.
Not only was it a represented nation of the world, I'll show you some more. Here's a snippet from a newspaper article. The alphabets of the world. They had one of the largest alphabets. We have that documented. So right there, just those two pieces of documents disprove the mainstream, the Google narrative, that it was just a placeholder.
Yeah.
But there's far more than just that. Not only was it a vast language, they had their own flags. They had the Great Wall of Tartaria, not the Great Wall of China. I don't know if you can see that here.
Great Wall of Tartaria.
The Great Wall of Tartary. Now, there's a reason why Marco Polo, who was famous explorer for, exploring China and the Silk Roads, never talked about the Great Wall of China. Never once mentioned it in his travels. Now, when you pull up Marco Polo, interesting enough, in Google, let's do that real quick here for you. Just a moment.
While you're pulling that up, the flag, the Tartarian flag, has the griffin on it. Explain what a griffin is.
Griffin is a cryptoid creature that they say never existed, much like unicorns, dragons, blemmy, giants, etc. However, the griffin, much like giants, blemmies, unicorns, cynocephaly, have been talked about throughout this realm. Not just one culture, not just one civilization, not just one period of time.
Yep.
So again, you have causality. It's not just one nation or a couple nations close by talking about giants or griffins. It's a whole worldwide mention of these creatures that we now call mythical beast. Okay, so I love that picture too you got there going on.
Yeah. What is going on there?
Yes. And again, can we build anything close to that today? That's the real question. Okay, so when you pull up Marco Polo, interesting thing when you hit up Wikipedia. Do you see that flag? That
are you sharing
right there?
You have to share your screen again.
Oh, hang on a sec. Let me get you back.
Okay.
Okay, so when you pull up Marco Polo here on Wikipedia, you see that flag right there, that little symbol. That's a Tartary owl. Even says there, Polo wearing a Tartar outfit print from the 18th century. Weird considering he was born in 1254, but he's decked out in Tartarian attire. That's why you have no mention of the Great Wall of China. I theorize that China was once part of Tartaria and they broke off. That's why when you look at that flag of the nation that we had earlier, that's why their flags were so similar. Hang on, I can pull that back up a little bit better here for you. You see that?
Yep.
You got the China dragon, the Tartary dragon or griffin. I think there were one nation. I think Tartary went a lot further than just south or the eastern part of Asia. I think it was nearly worldwide. A lot of Alaskan natives can trace their origins to the Mongolians.
Do you think that Tartaria or Tartary was a worldwide civilization, or just large parts of the world?
Large parts of the world. I think, Tartaria is kind of used almost as a placeholder ourselves in the truther community.
Like Tartaria equals old world.
Exactly.
That's how I use it. Now I say old world because too many people get triggered. Tartaria.
Yep.
The old world.
Exactly.
Some of it's Tartaria.
Exactly.
Some of it's not. We're trying to figure it out, but there's no question. Look at these buildings. It's insane.
See, we're veterans of the craft. We know how to speak and not trigger people. Yeah, that's why if you look at a lot of my videos, I'll allude to Tartaria, but I'll refrain from using that word specifically unless I'm actually, bringing up documentation of Tartaria itself. Here again with the Great Wall of China, you will find most of the archer slits, most of the entranceways on the opposite side in the Russian territory, or where Tartaria used to be. Now, why would China make a Great Wall and make the archery slits facing the Chinese side? I mean, I know you can say, communist China, they like to do some extreme things over there, but still.
I think it was the builder. He had dyslexia and he screwed up. He's like, oh, dude, sorry.
There you go. There you go. And here's another view kind of about the Tartaria nation and China, and that's where the border was. That's where the wall was. I mean, it makes perfect sense when you consider that.
Amazing.
China has had a large documented history of ripping off cultures, ripping off history, heritages, and just outright ripping off technology. They do it to us all the time. They take our technology, and I mean, more power to them. They take our expensive to manufacture technology and find a way to make it cheaper. And I mean, good for them, but that's their whole past. That's what they've been doing. To think that it's in the realm of possibility for them to steal a wall, to steal heritage and cultures, I mean, that's really not that far of a stretch, even when you look at China and the mainstream narrative. I mean, as you can see, all these documentations of Tartaria, a Tartarian, a Tartar gentleman, these are all showing that it is far more than just a placeholder. Far more. It was a well-documented country. I mean, you don't have maps this detailed, correlated over hundreds of years. I think my oldest map of Tartaria goes back to 1400s. So that's triple the history and established timeline of our own government, the U.S. And
I mean, our timeline is so stupid. It's like nothing happened, and then in 150 years we built everything.
Yeah, we were riding on horse and carriage for 1,500 years.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, boom, now we're flying to the moon, and we're going around in space. You can't go, but we're doing it. We're $50 million a day.
No, you can go. You can go if you put up some money, but it won't be for 10 years.
Oh yeah. Well, you see these high altitude adventures. I seen one the other day. It's like $200,000 will get you, and they say carefully, a near space experience. They basically take a high balloon up and you eat dinner, and then they drop you back down.
Yeah, if it ever happens, you're in a capsule with a curved window, like a submarine curved window.
Yep.
So you could not see anything but a curve. There's no way. So I don't even think that's going to happen. But if it does, big deal.
Exactly. This is that 1400 map, I believe. I don't know the exact date, but this is, I believe, one of the oldest maps I have of Tartaria.
Wow.
You see just these, and this was in the 1500s. Just look at these massive cities, these castles, these just beautiful, beautiful architecture, and just grand across the region.
Yeah.
But it was just a placeholder.
Yeah, I don't think so. Was it you that showed years ago? Let's shift a little bit if you're ready to airships, and we talked about Radium. You know,
Yes.
and radium engines. Was it you that showed the rate they were doing on a New York City building? They were something was wrong with an old elevator, and they opened it up, and there was a radium engine in there.
I think I had some. It's a Mercury.
A Mercury, yeah. It was a crazy engine.
Capacitor or something. Yeah, that's actually how they charged electric vehicles back in the day too. Was with mercury, like these transistors or something. I'm killing the name of it, exactly what it was, but yeah, it was like this big tube with mercury in it, and like the electric bolts would like kind of fling around it and stuff. It was like a mercury arc refractor or something like that. I'm sure people are going to yell at me.
I've seen. I think it's mercury with magnets, and it spins around, and you had a little current to it.
Yeah,
I forget. It's all fascinating. So the question I had was radium. So you look at all the fireplaces that were like, they didn't used to burn wood in there. They're using radium to heat. To heat. Yep. I don't know if it's to heat and cool, but is that the same radium that they make you test when you're buying a house to see if you have any radium in your cellar?
Radon, I believe.
Is that the same thing as radon from radium?
I don't believe so. No, radon's a separate thing. Yeah.
Okay, separate thing.
So, yeah, but radium, same with like lead paint. There's a lot of benefits to lead paint. The
problem is when there's lead paint, around, I get hungry and I just want to eat those lead chips.
Exactly.
Okay. So we need to get rid of the lead paint. It's just too tempting to eat those chips.
And that's the same exact mindset when you bring up topics like radium or something to people. They instantly go to, oh, it's so deadly and radioactive, and the radium girls. It's funny, we have these triggers like when you talk about airships. The first thing
some airships while we're talking
will say, yeah, definitely. So the first thing the mainstream masses will say is, oh, it's so dangerous, it's explosive, it'll go boom. Then they only can think of the Hindenburg. The Hindenburg was the only explosive disaster of airships, and it was actually like the only disaster of a passenger airship.
And I think it was a complete and total false flag. Can you make these pictures bigger when you're showing them?
Yes, I can. Yeah. Yes, I can.
There you go.
So this is the USS Akron docking on the mooring stations installed on a lot of these naval ships. So for something that was just, a fad that didn't take off and it was so dangerous and explosive, again, much like Tartaria, why do we have so much common repeating instances of them? These airships, this is during the construction of the Empire State Building, where there was a mooring station built right on top. Now they say it was never used because it was too windy, but that was not the only mooring station that was built in a skyscraper at the time. My own hometown, Chicago, the Medina Athletics Club, they had a mooring station, and they'll even say in the official Wikipedia, they had a mooring station built on top. Well, then they figured out again that it was too windy and dangerous, and it wasn't going to really work out, so they scraped it. And I mean, here's an image of the airship docking at the Empire State Building. They say this is just a designed image to show off that the Empire State Building had a mooring station on it, though it was never attempted. Well, they said they attempted it once, but it was too windy and they gave up on it. So you're going to build this massive skyscraper in a year's time, just one of the most beautiful pieces around at the time. And you're not going to think of those details when you design something like that. We're just going to hope for the best. Just put a big giant mooring station on top. Let's hope it all works out, guys. This is, of course, DC. Airships flying in the background here.
Wait, go back to that DC picture. Those buildings look like super old.
Old as heck. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's what you see when you see these pictures from the 1800s. I did a video on Australia, Melbourne, Sydney, showing it, early 1800s, like the first pictures that we had from them. And everything you see is old, weathered stone buildings, muddy, buried streets. And it's same thing. This is another reason why, when everybody asks, well, why do they get rid of airships? What's the point? This is a trip to a South Pole expedition They had trips to the South Pole, trips to the North Pole, many explorations. And of course, we can't have that. Our fixed wing aircraft today struggle going to the North and South Pole because, it's too cold and the extreme weathers. But airships, I have many, the Roma, the Norge, all taking these polar expeditions and being able to explore deep into Antarctica, something that we can't do from the air today even.
Show the images of the airships so where you can show the inside, because people think that only people are in those little cabins. Excuse me.
Yeah.
Cabins on the outside. It's like a cruise ship in there.
Oh, yeah. And I don't know how much flying you have, but I would much prefer flying these things than anything else that we have today in these little sardine cans. Let's see what I have here. I got some more. Hang on a sec.
While you're looking that up. So I was reading about radium engines, and do you know what the exhaust from a radium engine is?
Water, pretty much.
Helium,
nothing, right?
Helium.
Okay.
So if you had a radium engine on an airship, you have a resupply of helium.
A free energy device. Exactly.
And I don't know, does the radium engine go forever like a nuclear engine does?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, that was the thing with radium. They had radium heaters. They had radium heating devices.
They had radium condoms. Can you tell me about that?
Radium rubbers, yeah. I mean, where is, we had these radium girls that, they were dying.
Bring up pictures while you're talking, please. You have so many pictures. Let's
there we go. Here we go. Here's some of the interiors of the airships here. This was the LZ-130. I believe this was a Russian designed. No, this is a German design. But you can see the whole underneath of this airship is, passenger spots, crew spots, cargo, storage, etc. It was not just,
they had,
when you say
cabins,
airships,
and restaurants, and like a cruise ship.
Exactly. They had outside seating areas where you could go and see. This was a design for a cargo carrier airship. This was one of the trips documented a German naval airship L-32 at the North Pole, or South Pole rather, sorry. And another thing is all these American airships that you see.
Wait, they look like the external tank on the space shuttle.
They do kind of, don't they?
Yeah, well, that's because the external tank on the space shuttle is a blimp. For those of you that don't know,
I believe it.
Yeah.
I believe it. Absolutely. I think I've seen your video on that, covering that. Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Think of that, and just look at how, simple logistics wise. My professional career, I spent 10 plus years in logistics and freight transportation, and just thinking of an airship from a cargo standpoint, you can unload and load anywhere. All you need is a mooring station. You don't even need a mooring station. These guys are right up on the water. These are boats just docking right up onto the airship. Water rescues. There's many videos of them performing water rescues with airships. They were so easy. They could just drop boats right out of the airship and rescue the stranded ship.
This is why they demonized helium. I mean, hydrogen with the Hindenburg, and everyone thinks, hydrogen bombs. And then NASA controls all the helium. So there's just enough for party balloons.
Yeah,
an occasional football game. A football game has a little Goodyear blimp. They'll do that. But if you want to start up a giant airship company, good luck getting the helium.
Exactly. And that's exactly what happened with the Germans. All those U.S. airships I showed you, like the Akron, the Macon, they were all German designed. Retributions from World War I, actually. The U.S. couldn't even design their own airships. The Germans were miles and miles ahead of us in developing those things. Part of the reason why we held the helium from them. We didn't want those things in the sky. From a military standpoint, it makes sense in that regards to demonize them because, at the time we had nothing that we could defend against them. And now people say, they'd be so easy to shoot down from anti-air, etc. Another thing people don't understand, aside from just the lower cabins underneath these, is this is a rigid structure filled with helium bladders. So there's several different like giant size compartments with like filled bladders in these rigid metal frames.
So even if it gets damaged, it'll just gently land on the ground and people can get off of it.
Exactly. I wouldn't say this is probably the most gentle landing, but again, anything from a big giant fireball to all the humanity that you see from the Hindenburg
Total
show.
fake.
And I mean, look at this. This one got knocked off where half of it came off, and they were still able to land successfully.
Yep.
And anything, I mean, just look at the massive size of these. This is all lower cabins underneath here. And some of the U.S. airships, and this is the detail of the one of those mooring stations. Just look at the technology that goes into one of those. The U.S. airships, the Akron, Makaron, and I can't remember the other two, but they actually had aircraft that would fly out of the lower belly. They'd have up to 5 scout crafts, whole battalion basically, that they could just release right from the air and dock back with the airship. They were floating aircraft carriers. And I almost think that some way that technology is still out there. You think of UFOs like the cigar tic tac shaped UFOs. I mean, those are basically airships, and you already have stealth technology. Where our planes, for example, the military will admit to it, where they have these 4K cameras all on the bottom of on the plane and then on the top. So they take pictures of the top of the sky and they transpose it to the bottom of the aircraft.
The cameras are looking up, so you look up and all you see is sky.
Exactly.
It's a great cloaking device, if you will.
And that's what the government will proudly admit to us. And I always say
you got airship technology along with electrostatic levitation, if you will, technology, and you have free energy. You can travel anywhere you want. Probably don't need to refuel for years or ever.
Pretty much. Tesla actually had some plans for them. Here's some of them outside the aircraft coming out of the aircraft carrier.
That gives you an idea how big it is. Look at those airplanes dropping out of it.
Look like tiny little ants almost comparatively to it. Tesla actually had big plans with airships as well. He wanted to use them in his free ether electricity. Now, I feel Tesla, whether, a lot of people say it didn't even exist. I'm not sure about that. I feel he was almost a rediscoverer of a lot of this old world technology. More so than a secluded inventor that kept to himself. I feel he made breakthroughs, researching the old world technology.
I believe, and a lot of people agree with this, a lot of people just can't fathom it, that people can, the thing that they call the Akashic records, I call that the collective human consciousness. And people can connect to this stuff and build these things where they had no training, they had no idea. They're able to get the information. So perhaps Tesla was able to connect to that old world technology and bring it out again for the world to use.
And funny enough about that is Tesla actually talked about something. He would say, I think he'd call it like his mind palace or something, where be able to connect with this collective human consciousness. There's also talks of the fake Einstein.
Oh my God! There's
as well.
I got to find the meme. There's a photo. It's like 100 Austrian scientists against Einstein, saying that he is leading the world into a place of made up math, equations of nonsense.
Absolutely.
So
absolutely, Einstein's just a latest in the long list of lies of our history.
Yep. So let me ask you a question. We look at the old world's fairs and the number of people that got to San Francisco. It'd be hard to do that today with modern transportation and everything. Exactly. What do you think the world population used to be in the old world? Because they say
larger than it was today.
Larger than today. Like today we have 8 billion, they say. I think it's actually less.
I do too.
I've been throwing out the number of 100 billion.
It could very easily be. I mean, some of the most beautiful monuments to our ancient past are, for one, not even found yet, but the ones that we have found are in some of the most remote regions in the world, or meters underwater.
Yep.
So how did they get built underwater? I mean, that right there shows that the topographical features of this world has drastically altered. I heard like, temples and stuff found miles underwater, and like the only reason that would be able to be happen is if the ocean's raised miles and miles above what they are now, and they weren't driving SUVs and gas guzzlers to cause this whole global warming fiasco that we're talked about now.
Oh my Lord. Yeah.
And here's some of these radiums, getting back to that radium. They had it in everything from rubbers to radium cooking.
What is radium cooking? It's like the bowl heats itself.
Yeah, so it doesn't quite. There are radium heating kitchen elements in some of this one right here, where it's like the radium material was underneath here, and it was actually like a little hot plate. But they would use radium in like glass, ceramics, stuff like that. They would add they would use it for like coloring and whatnot. Now, when people think of radiation, they think of the nuclear radiation, the nuclear isotopes. There's non-ionizing and ionizing radiation, and they're two different things. There's a naturally occurring radiation, and there's so much of that everywhere. Like the world is just naturally giving off radiation. Really, what radiation means is energy, to radiate off energy. So that's what radium was.
Going back to my comment from earlier, a radium condom. Okay, what does that do? Does that give you energy? Does it?
I'm not sure their the exact uses on that. I have been trying to look into that as well as some other things with the radium. They even have like radium cigarettes, radium cigars, radium candy.
Wow.
There's health benefits to ingesting radium. They'd have radium springs, radium water springs. There's this big radium bathhouse in Germany. It's just a beautiful, magnificent place where they would have like radium water springs.
Wow.
They would, like right here, they're bathing in radium water. This is radium soap. Radium water was considered a big health benefit. It's the same with like drinking out and using copper utensils. The benefits of that over now all of our utensils, all of our cooking ware is that that non-stick material, that forever chemical that gets in your system, that scrapes off and can lead to cancers. It's amazing how they had so much right in terms of health, but yet they say that they lived substantially longer than us. I don't believe that either.
I don't believe that either.
I believe we had a longer lifespan. I believe we had a lot more people, a lot more real people in this world. And that's why all these remote regions, all these pyramids, like the pyramids in Mexico, all these places, not only were they forgotten and abandoned, they were buried. Like what civilization that makes something like that lets that go to waste like that? Like,
well, it's over years, Jake. It's over years. It goes like a little bit, and they don't notice, and then another little layer of a millimeter, and then over millions of years, you have millions of millimeters, and it gets buried. That's the official narrative,
right? Well, yeah. Well, like Rome's official narrative there was, they made grand architecture, grand aqueducts that spanned whole cities, yet they didn't know what to do with their trash.
Yeah.
So in the great city of Rome, they would just dump it out in the middle of the street, and that's what caused all that increase in sediment. That is the literal official narrative behind how Rome was so buried. And of course, they tell you too, Rome was abandoned in the 1700s. Not many people know that. Rome and the Vatican were completely abandoned. Like, where did they go? Why? And then we just rediscovered it, and we're like, hey, this is a great place. Let's dig it out. And the Pope can move back into the Vatican, I guess. And
radium. I just read this thing. Radium boot polish. I think I need some of that radium boot polish.
Make your boots really shine. That's for sure. and yeah, there would be a preservative here. I mean, if you look at it here on the other one, defects of the average boot polish are that it does not last. So radium was a lasting solution for stuff like that. Radium brand butter. They had radium in their butter. Like literally, like this is just so we only hear about the radium girls painting radiated glow in the dark watch handles on clocks, and that's caused the crazy outcry on radiation, and that's why we needed to ban it, and that's why we needed to outlaw it. Here's radium cigarettes here. I mean, I don't know if that's going to be a better health choice than regular cigarettes or not personally, but
you know that tobacco is not addictive.
No, yeah. Did you read that study from Harvard?
Yeah, tobacco's not an organic tobacco. When we hear about the Native Americans, smoking their peace pipe and doing their rain dances, they were doing some real stuff with that. And now, the tobacco companies like, what, they brought chemists in there, like, what can we put in there that's going to make it addictive? They're like, oh, we'll put in this XYZ chemical, and that's the problem. That's what's going on.
Approved by our governments.
Yeah.
I mean, if cigarettes and smoking was so bad for you and they really cared about your health, the government could ban it in an instant.
Right.
I mean,
David Avocado Wolf talks about when you smoke, organic, pure tobacco, that you have all these nicotine receptors in your body, like cannabinoid receptors and nicotine receptors, and your prayers go straight to heaven, is the way he puts it. So it
like really amplifies your mind. Left and right brain kind of are in a sync with one another, higher powers. Yeah.
Right. And that's the thing I'm talking about with the population. I think when we have a massive population, that our collective minds literally work together, and like we're one giant, brain cell connected to each other electrically. Like if you zoom in a brain and they show us all these neurons and stuff, firing in between each other, but they're really far apart from each other compared to the size that they are. So we're kind of like one giant brain. And if you have, 100 billion people, that's what they don't want. That's what they can't control, in my opinion.
Exactly. No, you're exactly right. That's why when they say, well, what's the point of lying about this or that? They want us in the dark. A population that is unaware of their true past, unaware of their true capabilities, are that much easier to control.
Right. And they want the population down. They do it through the thing they stick in your arm. They do it through poisons. They do it through wars, and they do it through chemtrails, and they do it through worrying about paying for college. That is the number one reason why people don't have kids or more kids, because they're worried about college, which is a scam.
Oh yeah, honestly. I mean, like my wife, she just got, I'm in early 30s. My wife just completed college. She went originally her 4-year degree for psychology, and then she realized the scam that everywhere required you to have not only that 4-year degree, but experience with that 4-year degree.
Yeah.
So what the heck is she going to do with that? So then she decided, a couple years, kind of contemplated internally, and she thought, her real passion is teaching people and helping people out. So she went to school to become a teacher. And, she just got done with that. I mean, thankfully, there's some, perks in becoming a teacher. You'll get some of that college debt paid off for it. But I mean, we'll be paying that off for, 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, it's all about control. All about controlling people.
And you had the most beautiful architecture made by people who didn't even complete grade school.
I know.
Comparatively. And now we have...
Think about people that go to school for history. If they're watching this, they just learn more about our history than they will learn in school in 4 years.
Exactly. Our true history.
Our true history is not what they tell us, the opposite of what they tell us.
Indeed. I hope I kind of help explain that to your audience here as well. How much things from airships, radium, boy, there's always so much more we can we can cover here, Dave.
We
I
can
mean,
go.
I
Let's
got.
go. We don't have to end it. We can go a little longer. Let's go.
Oh yeah, I got all the time, man. I got all the time. Here's a radium heater right here. You know, Shofar Radium. This is just a radium fireplace. It's why you see these old world fireplaces adorned in beautiful marble, beautiful hand carved wood. You would never burn a fire in that. You could never get that smoke sucked out.
Yep.
They weren't used for fire. They were used for things like radium, mercury.
Have you come across any of these devices that actual devices that people have from the past?
I've seen some interesting stuff, like as terms of like old world, like ether technology. People have came across, pieces of, I guess I can say like unknown tech from that time attached to these towers and belfries. And, you look at it and you kind of from breaking it down from an engineering standpoint, it does look like it's some kind of energy gathering device with, like some mercury or red mercury used in there. And that's the problem with it. What we have is just bits and pieces of the past.
Sure.
And what we're trying to do is trying to get as big of a picture as we can while constantly battling the mainstream narrative.
So somebody like Graham Hancock, who, his one of his big things is Gobekli Tepe, and he talks about, how grand it was and how amazing it was that it was built, but he's got the wrong narrative. And then he says, then after they built it, they buried it.
Yeah.
They didn't bury it. It got mud flooded, right?
It got mud flooded. Exactly. Right.
That's like burying a city. I mean, it's like you can't, they buried it. It got buried in a mud flood. Yes,
exactly. Graham Hancock, I like a lot of stuff he does. I've seen his documentary on Netflix.
I think he's honest in what he believes. He's completely wrong on much of it. And
yeah. He says there's no giants. Like he was in one of the episodes I watched, he was saying about how these ancient people were talking about giants helping them build these megalithic structures. He would talk about all this proof being presented, and then he would turn around in the same breath and say, but of course they weren't talking about actual giants. Giants didn't exist.
And when people see pictures like this of giants, these are the small giants, right?
Those are the last versions of giants. Absolutely right. Yeah. Those are just the little mini giants that we have. And yeah, that's like when the last couple hundred years when we still had, photography or cameras, or at least cameras that we would be allowed to know about. So I say a lot of these pictures and stuff, do we really know how old they are? They might come with a date on them. They might say, oh yeah, this is from 1899. But could it have been from 200, 300, 400 years ago? They just give us these bits and pieces and tell us the dates and tell us the information about them. Yeah, and these are, again, just the last versions of the giants. Last couple hundred years, where there were, about 7, 8 foot, 9 foot. And they were worldwide. Again, it's not just a few instances of giants. They served a lot of giants you'll see in military.
Yep.
Military garb, like this guy here, a couple of ones I showed previously. I think they worked, it's like anything else. People ask me, were giants good? Were giants bad? I think it's just like the same question when you ask about humans. There are good humans, there are bad humans, and there are ones in between. You and I both know that, black and white, it's nothing in this world is black and white. They lived and shared this world with us. There were some bad giants, there were some good giants, and there were some giants that were just, out of the way from us. And I believe they are still out there. I think that we had a falling out with them. Perhaps the controllers, my theory on that is after the reset, their population took a big hit, our population took a big hit. But we're, one thing about, smaller species and just, the animal kingdom side of things is they tend to be more adaptable to surviving harsh environments and harsh situations. So say 200 years ago, the mud flood happened, wiped out our populations. We were able to hold off and stave off more. We had larger numbers. The giants were completely decimated, completely taken off guard. And that's where us, not necessarily us collectively as humans, but those who control our strings, that pull our strings from behind the scenes, they went to war with them, wiped out the remaining giants.
Amazing.
And then the ones still around went to seclusion, went to hiding, went beyond the ice walls. That's why the U.S. government has great interest in the Nephilim. I should just put this on a slideshow here. There we go. There we go.
There you go.
That's why the U.S. government has strange interests in the Nephilim. You can go look in the Freedom of Information Act. Then Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton had email correspondence about giants and Nephilim in Iraq.
Right.
When you look at the whole reason why we went to the Middle East, Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, all of these supposed dictators, that's just what the Western media tells us, is they're just evil dictators. Supposedly had hidden technology, hidden connections to giants and the Nephilim. Supposedly Saddam Hussein found a working Stargate. And of course, we couldn't have any country have more advanced technology than us. Oh, no. There's always the joke about the U.S. and oil. I mean, if people realize the real technology that drives what's behind the scenes, oil is nothing to us.
Just pause that picture for a second. Go back one picture. So just look at those blocks. I don't care if they were cut. Who put those there? How is that possible? They had to be sourced, and it wasn't local. You find these quarries; they're miles and miles away from these megalithic build sites. Yep.
So they had to be quarried. They had to be traveled and traversed, and then shaped perfectly. So you can't even put a razor blade in between these gaps.
This is totally different technology as far as quarrying, transporting, building. It totally, we have no idea how they did it. We just know they didn't do it the way that we would try and do it.
Because we couldn't try and do it today. I mean, we really can't build something this megalithic, even with all of our cranes and our heavy machinery. These are 1,000 tons, 100 tons blocks.
This is just me theorizing, speculating, not claiming this is the way it is. But sometimes I think when the creator created this world, he threw down some amazing infrastructure for us to live in. Why just create people and go, here, go, good luck in the caves. Hope you figure out how to make a power drill one day. I think that the creator took the raw materials and created kingdoms for us. Possibly. It's an idea.
There's actually talks about that to back it up in religious text about, angels, fallen angels came and built all these monuments and structures and stuff, and then they bred with us humans.
I wish I had saved it. Somebody sent me an old cartoon where these, I think it was like a fallen angel, created a kingdom at the swipe of an arm, and all this stuff happened. And then I remember as kids, there was all these cartoons about giants turning into stone, and show the pictures, the sleeping giant and all of these stuff, and and I'm aware of what pareidolia is, and some of them, not necessarily saying the ones that you show, but there's plenty that could be pareidolia.
Oh yeah,
and
oh yeah,
but you're like, the one of the sleeping giant, it looks amazing, but how did they just stay there? Well, going back to what I said at the beginning in Acapulco with the frog that turned into stone in mid leap, if there was some sort of event that turned things into stone, liquefied everything, you just where you are is where you are, and then that's what it is.
Exactly. Now, if you go to
let's do a couple of those and make them bigger as you do.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me slideshow this here.
Yeah.
There we go. So there's actually, if you go on the CIA's website, type in Gilgamesh, you'll pull up the story, the Adam and Eve story, which is a book written by this doctor. And it basically talks about a reset, about how 2-mile wide wall of water comes after a big giant, cataclysmic event and just wipes out the world. And now think of like a 2-mile high wave that is going at nearly the speed of sound.
It's over.
Not only it's over with, yeah. Not only do you have the water to worry about, and in the book, I recommend anyone just go to CIA.gov, go to Freedom of Information Act, and let's see if I can actually right here, and then just type in Gilgamesh, and you'll see this whole book that's just really weirdly, for one, it doesn't say anything about Gilgamesh. It's like it's almost was put in here inadvertently. And anyone can do it. You don't even need an account for this here. The Adam and Eve story. It's a book by Dr. Chan Thomas here, and it just talks all about the passions, the perils of nationhood, the nuke fluke, and it goes into just these really bizarre stories. The next cataclysm, the great floods, the story, the event, Genesis, the conclusion. Like Noah's flood every 6,500 years, like Adam and Eve 11,000 years ago, this too will come to pass. So this book does not even start off as being portrayed as a work of fiction. It's basically talking about, reset events, and this will happen. With the rumble so low and inaudible, and really, like, the more you go into it, like, they talk about actual points, like Pikes Peak was like some of the only places safe from this reset. The people on the side of Pikes Peak, high enough from the wall of water and able to block the wind, the westerly wind, because that wave that'll come will also bring, like I said, a near supersonic wind with it. That's why, look at the forest. Why do we have no ancient forest? Most of our forests are about 150, 200 years old. I showed a really great picture of Siberia here, about 100 years ago, with absolutely no trees. 100 years later, that same peak, that same mountain range in Siberia, completely covered in forest. What changed? A reset. That's what changed. The great floods. I mean, really, it's just a really odd, out of place book here, talking all about like specifics here. Specifics about what to expect in this flood. It's almost like a prediction of what's to come here. But yeah, CIA, Freedom of Information Act. Give it a check out there. Read that. It's a really good read. It's only about 50 pages. So it's really not that deep, but it will have the hair on the back of your neck standing up the whole time, I swear.
Amazing. So,
but
go ahead, finish up there.
I kind of lost my train of thought there, actually. No, go ahead, Dave. Go ahead.
I ask you, we got to wrap it up pretty soon, but
yeah.
Show me your favorite old world mud flood building photos. You have a favorites folder?
Oh yeah, I got thousands of pictures here. This is see how I have it all sorted out basically just by category right here, if you can see them. In terms of mud flood, I got quite a few great pictures here.
Amazing.
Ones that did it for me. Here's the ones that really did it for me on the mud flood. The Easter Island heads.
Make that bigger.
Now, we were always told of the Easter Island heads, just the heads, not the Easter Island bodies. Well, they started to decide, a couple decades ago, let's try and dig. Let's see let's see if there's anything else under these heads.
Whole bodies.
Whole bodies. Now I just lost that. Here we go. There we go.
Yeah, that one got me when I first.
Whole entire bodies. Now this is when I first heard about the mud flood theory, as many with critical thought or not, would think, oh, well, that's complete hogwash. And then when you start looking into some of these things that, people like John Levi, people like me say, and you see that, no, we're not just pulling your chain. Like, there's no reason why I wake up every day to get called a retard 50 times plus in the comment sections by these NPCs or whatever you want to call them that tell me I don't know history. Like, it's not that I'm just making this up just for the gas or just for the laughs. I mean, I used to be a big mainstream history buff. Like, I loved mainstream history, like, war history, all that stuff. Like, I was a big study on that. So part of the thing for me personally was to kind of accept my own indoctrination, get past my own indoctrination. And those Easter Island heads really did it for me. I mean,
nice.
There's no mainstream explanation for them. They can't even... I remember watching a documentary in high school once about them, how they were trying to describe how they got the heads from one end of Easter Island all the way to the other. Because that's, again, same kind of setup. They had to quarry and rock.
Yeah,
yep.
They wobbled it over
with ropes and stuff, but that never took into effect this whole dang body that they just buried underneath it all.
Yeah.
And look, even in this one, you can see some evidence of the mud flood. Like, look at this little cylinder-looking shaped rock right here. These little archways. These look all carved.
Right.
And one of the things that you see here, the more you kind of dig in, I guess you could say, is it's not just the mud flood. Mud flood's a great eye-opener catch. What really kind of keeps me fresh almost daily is like these deliberate edits of our skies, deliberate edits of these old world pictures.
I saw recently you were showing some of that, because
this one probably
that the skies are just whited out, but then when you show something like that, that's a horrible edit.
Yeah, look at this. I mean, this isn't leaves on the tree or anything. I mean, all the way down to the bottom, you can see the different coloring, the different tones, all the way on the side.
Yep.
No, it's not just that picture. I mean,
from you or from somebody else that they said all of the pictures of the Civil War are from one family. And
I haven't heard that. No.
When you look at these pictures from the Civil War of the soldiers and everything, they look AI generated to me.
No, that's what I think. It's a lot of it is AI generated altered images. Scenes shot from like a green screen or a sound stage, like those scenes at the beach.
And then Jake, you've seen the pictures where they say that like people like Nicolas Cage and Eddie Murphy, they had an identical twin, from the world. I think these guys just took these pictures and faked it and said, and they're like, we're going to make these old pictures and we're going to use these actors to make these old pictures.
No, that's exactly what I think happened too. There are a lot of scenes of just outright like looking like actors taking shots, taking scenes in these American Civil War photos, especially. Here's one. Speaking of American Civil War, this is a picture of them. A medical scene here. This is a medical ambulance.
Yeah.
Just look at the people. So none of them look dirty. They're just looking laying in pose. This guy was supposed to be wounded. He's got his hand up there. He's looking right at the camera. This guy is just looking right at the camera. Everybody's just kind of staring and posing. Nobody looks dirty or like
this guy. The guy on the far left on the ground. He's just taking a nap.
Exactly. He's just like arms stretched out. I mean,
chilling.
This guy with his little sword, he just looks like he's posing for like Vogue or something, Yeah. Like, and officially with this Civil War too, they admit that they were staged photos. Well, they had to be because of this and that or whatever, but they had a cameraman follow along all these battalions, and in America's most bloodiest and nastiest war, with the biggest loss of life, they made sure to take all these random weird posed pictures. It's like, oh, I know you guys are about ready to go off to Gettysburg, but hey, let's all like get around and pose in really weird pictures and act like you're injured, for posterity here to, seal the moment. I mean, and these are scenes in like Richmond and stuff like that where they say cannonballs did all of this. Look at the overgrowth in some of these pictures. I did a YouTube video on this a couple of weeks back. Really kind of, you see some of these scenes from the American Civil War and it looks like, directed energy weapons or massive carpet bombings, not cannonballs.
When I grew up, I live in Connecticut, right next to New York, and we would go into the Bronx. It looked like that. It looked like that picture.
Yes.
And I'm like, what happened here?
Yeah, you look at I was blown away. John Levi actually did a really good video. I don't know if you know who he is. He's a great YouTuber. John Levi. Yep. He did a really good video on that a couple years back. I seen just looking at like old New York pictures from like the 80s of the Bronx and stuff like that, and it looked just like exactly right, just like this, like a war zone.
Crazy. It's crazy. We can talk about this for hours and hours and hours. I'm gonna just pop you back on the screen here. For on my app, if you go to the homeschool page, I have oops. Not loading because I have a test version on here. Let's go. Homeschool page. And of course, it doesn't want to load for me, but now it'll load. I'm doing a little testing here. So on the homeschool page, I've got you right here. So anyone that wants to know Jake, you can find him here. This goes to his, I think it just goes to your Instagram, but then you have all your other stuff on there. Yep. Short clips, tons, like mind blowing. And then I have my lunch break over here. You gotta start watching him. Watch his Milwaukee stuff.
Yes.
John Levi over here. Mm-hmm. So between these three corners, we've got some amazing, old world stuff. That rabbit hole is so deep, it's bottomless. You'll never hit the bottom.
We can go hours and hours, absolutely. And I'm always down to do another show. Come back for another hour and talk about some more. I mean, you see all the files of photos I have. I have endless amounts of stuff to talk about here.
Let's do this every couple of weeks. We'll
down.
We'll just do this and figure out what the hell happened.
I'm down. I know my audience loves when we get together. They'll definitely be happy with this video, I think. But yeah, next couple of weeks we'll get together and do another on part 3.
100%. So, Jake, tell everybody, for my audience, where they can find you. It's I'm the Improbable Dreamer. That's your Instagram, but you have another one. It's the Doctor. What is it?
Yep, I kind of got a couple different names, but you'll find if you find the Improbable Dreamer, you can hit the link tree in my bio there on Instagram. It'll take you to all my sites. I'm the Dr. Regenerated on TikTok, the Improbable Dreamer on YouTube. I'm pretty much on all social medias. My Telegram page, the Dr. Regenerated chat.
What if they just remember I'm the Improbable Dreamer, or if you have my app, just go to the homeschool section, top right corner, and watch his stuff. And know what I like about you? I'll tell you what I like about you is you don't go, this is why it happened, and this is exactly when it happened, and this is, you're just like, look at this. Look.
Exactly.
This is what didn't happen. And we're trying to fix the rest. So, if I were, when I show something that's just obvious and I get the haters, I don't even finish reading the statement. Banned, banned, banned. My subs would be so much higher. I ban more. It's ridiculous.
Feel that.
Yeah.
Feel that.
Don't let the haters suck your energy down, because that's what they're here for.
Amen. Amen. David, it's been a pleasure. I appreciate you chatting with me.
And for those that don't know me, flatearthdave.com, learn about the flat earth, and flatearthdave.com. That's where you find all my stuff.
Yes, sir. Have a great night, friends. And until next time, question everything.
All right, man. Thanks. See ya.
Take it easy. Bye-bye.